Hello, and welcome to On the Lime. I'm Kayla.
And I'm Will, and on this episode we sat down with Liv Higgins, the Assistant Athletic Director of Marketing at WKU.
Whew, that is a long title. I'm proud of you. You got it right.
I am too. I'm kind of gloating over here on my own. But
you should.
But it was a good conversation. I mean, she talked about a lot of things that I haven't thought about that goes into sports marketing.
Yes, and I was interested to hear how she got her start in sports marketing because, you know, as a woman, sometimes doors are shut in your face when you're interested in athletics.
Yeah.
But she's kind of carved out her own niche, and oh man, what a powerful story.
Yeah, and she rocks it over there. She does a great job, and with the team that they have over at WKU, she talks about a lot of their strategies and a lot of how she got her start.
Yeah, and she brought a lot of great energy to this episode. Very upbeat. Loved it, and you guys are going to love it too.
I think Kayla might have sent you something. Did you get a chance to look that over?
Yes, I read it.
So we have these things called the 3 I statements because we have a short period of time.
I was trying to think of my I statements.
Did you get any?
I have one. I can probably think of 2 others.
Okay.
All right.
But
We'll start with the first one.
Yeah, let's start with number 1, and we'll go on the roller coaster here.
Okay. I go to this a lot, but I am a football coach's daughter. I have been my entire life. He's retired now, but I come to that portion of my life because it is the epiphany of why I am the way that I am. So I tell everyone that I'm like, I am a football coach's daughter. Remember the Titans, little water girl? That was me. Like I was crazy. And my dad wouldn't allow me on the sidelines. And I went crazy and was like, you know what? You let my cousin, which he was a boy. So I was like, you let him go down, and we're only 2 weeks apart. You're letting me go down there. And so he was like, oh God. He was like, I have a lot on my hands here. So he let me come down, and I never left. I never left. I was on it all through high school and everything. I had a little fanny pack. Like I was some athletic trainer with 3 degrees, and I was like 7. So, but I was screaming at the players. My dad would always see me and he'd be like, get back. You're going to get ran over. But I was all up in it, and that totally makes me the way that I am today. And so I'm grateful for that.
Awesome.
Yeah. So is football your sport?
Yeah. So what's great about the position I'm in right now is football is my main sport. So, but football is it's my thing. I mean, I played sports my whole life, but like football is it's just another breed. I mean, my whole life and family life and home life was wrapped around football. Yeah. And so it's all I know. And when I came to college, it was really all I knew. And so one of the first jobs I got was with the football team at WKU because I was like, I don't know what else to do. Like all I know is I went to practice with my dad every day. So, so someone tell me what I can do with my career that revolves around that. So yeah.
It just kind of worked out that way then.
I know, right?
So I bet you have some pretty epic games of flag football.
Oh yeah. So intramural football was another breed for me. It was very competitive for me. I was on a co-ed and an all-girl team in college, and I was in a sorority, so we wanted to get all those intramural points or whatever. But I remember going through sorority rush as a sophomore, and I wanted to be a Kappa Delta because Kappa Deltas won all the flag football tournaments, all of them. And that's the only reason I went through recruitment. I was like, I want to be a Kappa Delta because I want to win that flag championship. And then I ended up joining Chi Omega and choosing Chi Omega, which I'm so grateful for. But yes, like we were recruiting, and I was like, we're recruiting the best team. Like we're not going out here looking like scrubs. Like we are going to go out here. We're going to look good. I'm going to have my dad come out here. Like we played in regional tournaments. But it's funny because I have a group of guys and a group of girls that like we're flag friends. Like we played on multiple teams together and we're friends to this day. But like flag football was our jam. Like that's what we played. And one time we played in a tournament in college, and I'm not a huge girly girl, but we did win a football that was completely bedazzled. Ooh. And I was like, this is the best thing I've ever won in my life.
Who got to hold on to that football?
I held on to it.
Do you still have it?
No, I passed it on. So we do like this thing when you're a senior where you pass on things.
Okay.
And so at that time, I passed it on to the next prodigy of the girl that was everything flag football. And I said, you take care of this. If a bedazzle little thing falls off, you hot glue it back on. We don't have time. This is a prized possession, okay? And they totally just hot glued a bunch of rhinestones on it. Like, it really wasn't that big of a deal.
Right.
But it was just like, that was just it. That was a great memory for us. Yeah.
So what else?
Oh, man.
Have you traveled? anywhere fantastic with sports?
So I do love traveling and seeing facilities. So I am a facilities buff, I guess you could say. What's so cool is the opportunities to be able to travel and see all the different facilities and what they convert to. One of my favorite memories is when we were in the Miami Beach Bowl a few years ago, we actually played at the Marlins Park. So which that's totally a thing for me too. I love to mark off MLB stadiums. Like that's just, and I'm a huge MLB fan, but like, I'm not like a crazy person.
Are you trying to go to every park?
But I just want to go to every park because they're so cool.
See, that's the thing I'm starting to do. Like we're trying to like go on a tour around and go to all of them. Like planning out like to go over a year and like hit like a bunch of them, and then the next
MLB
year.
is another breed. Like you can have your diehard team, but when you go, everyone wants to see every stadium just because the Major League Baseball is something else. You have the half where they're like brand new and they have all of these crazy like fan engagement things when people walk right through the doors, and then you have the ones that are like Wrigley and Fenway where they're traditional, they haven't been renovated, and you're just thinking like that's where freaking Babe Ruth played. Like you go there for just the history of it. But then like I go to Petco Park. I went to Petco in San Diego. That's awesome. And you can bring your dog in, and like there's like a t-ball field in the outfield for kids to play during the game. And like, that's just the kind of things that facilities are kind of changing to in our era. And definitely professionally, they can keep up a lot better than we can in college. Yeah. But I think that type of thing's awesome. Like when we were in the Marlins Stadium and like you never imagined to see a football field in the middle of a baseball field. Yeah. It was just cool. It was just really cool. Like to see how things can change. And I worked for the Bats when Louisville added their soccer club. And our grounds crew there when I was interning for them was turning around the baseball field into a soccer field within under 24 hours.
That's amazing.
So like when you just see how facilities can convert like that, it's absolutely unreal. And things like Bridgestone Arena, for example, like of course they're the home of the Preds, but they're the best venue in the country, and they host everything you could ever think of. So we just played a basketball game there, knowing they had a hockey game the night before, and then the next day they had a big concert. Like it's absolutely unreal what facilities can convert to, and I think it's so cool.
Well, a lot of people don't think about that because it's the people who work behind the scenes. Oh
yeah, and that's our industry in general. But I mean, it's the same thing for us. We'll have something one night and something the next night. I mean, recently we hosted the volleyball NCAA first and second rounds, and we had basketball games smushed between those. So like we had volleyball practice that we had to prep for on the main court, take that off, put some goals up, put some nets up. Like it's constantly those facilities people that are having to convert from one sport to the other. It's just the ability to convert that quickly is so crazy. It's really cool. How do you
manage all of that? Like you're in charge of so many things and you kind of oversee so much. How do you pay attention to all the details, but then keep the big picture in mind at the same time?
Yeah, it's complicated, but you just have to think about what your goal is at the end of it. Our goal as a marketing team is we want fans to walk in the door and we want them to enjoy themselves. What's the complicated part for us, which we can get into this, is we want them to enjoy themselves win or lose. That's what's complicated about our job is obviously you enjoy yourself a lot better if you win, but our job is to make them enjoy themselves win or lose. So like whatever it says on the scoreboard, we want them to come back. And that goes all the way down to the crew that is converting a facility to get it that way, because that crew in our category is in charge of our ushers. So like that is a total game changer. Like, you have to think of every single detail. Like, do I have a good usher to where if someone communicated with them, they had a good experience, so they want to come back?
Yeah.
That crew also is in charge of our concessions. Like, you have to think of everything. Like, are they going to have a bad experience if they sit in a concession line? What can we do to make that a better transition?
Yeah.
And that comes up with following up with fans at the end of the season to see what they enjoyed and what they didn't enjoy. But we try to think of those things because, I mean, it's like we had Education Day the other day. 4,000 kids from Warren County and city schools come in for a Lady Topper basketball game. It is the biggest Lady Topper basketball game for them every season. And they came back with us with the feedback of, we need more concession lines open. Our kids were waiting in line too long, which of course they're kids, so their indecisiveness probably came. I don't know if I want popcorn or Snickers, but that was a game plan we had to approach. Hey, we need to make that better next education game. And then our crew talked to our concession, which we're through Airmark, and just said, hey, this were the complaints that came back. Let's develop a game plan to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
And so you're already planning for next year.
Yeah. Always. And we have to do that. I mean, at the end of a football season, I mean, as soon as it ends, you have to think about what's next and what went wrong, what can we change? And we're kind of this is the time where we're starting to do that, but it's hard because we're smack in the middle of basketball season. So we don't really get much of a break to really sit in the juice of like really getting into the data and all that stuff. And that's what we try to do over the summertime. But then by the time the summer gets here, football's like less than 2 months away.
Yeah.
So it's like a ticking time bomb, but I mean, we try to do the best we can.
It is funny that you mention it, like you're marketing an event that you don't know the outcome of. So you have to like make sure it's about the experience for the fan, win or lose. What are some obstacles you have facing that you like, what are some things you use to get over that? Like,
of course you have to approach, whatever target you're trying to reach. So I guess win or lose, if we're on a losing streak, what you try to focus on is we want to provide them with an experience. So what we need to do is we need to make an affordable way for people to come. So that's kind of the approach we take on something like that. I mean, if we're having a horrible year and that's just how it is, how can we get a family of 6 in here for an affordable price so they have something to do so they're not in the house all night? Because in that aspect, they don't really care if we win or lose. They just want to take their kids out of the house. And they want to go somewhere where they can get their face painted and they can jump on some bouncies and see Big Red and then they move on. So trying to find that aspect is big for us. And we do that honestly before any season even starts. We always have an affordable family plan because we always are able to fall back on that family plan if something's not going our way. And that's really hard for us. When it comes to other things, like I try to just focus. I mean, when we've had a lot of coaching changes for football. So you can kind of see in that aspect, like, and most of the coaching changes, minus the one we had just made before Tyson, most of them they moved on to, to bigger jobs. And this was the one scenario I had been involved in where we were moving on from him. And that last year that he was the coach, it actually was perfect timing because I thought, all right, well, our fans aren't the happiest because of how we ended the previous season. So what can I focus on to kind of take away what they're thinking right now? And we honestly didn't even have that big of players. Like we didn't know who was going to start quarterback. Like we didn't hardly know anything. And it actually, a blessing from the marketing gods was that it was our 100th year of football. And so that's what we focused on. That's awesome. All we focused on was the tradition that we had, where we had come from. Our communication staff did a great job with making an all-century team where fans got to vote and they got to be included in that. We had a ton of reunions. We made that 100th-year team and then all-century team, and then they came to a game for a reunion. So we really focused on that. And then obviously the outcome of the season still didn't end up like we wanted to, but because of all of that focus on where we had come from, not necessarily that specific season, I think it did take, I mean, of course, everyone's going to still focus on the fact that we had a bad season, but we were like, we got to focus on that because
but you have that unity also, like everybody, the Hilltoppers, come together 100 years, celebrate. And that's what you kind of bind people over. And that's the
we brought so much back to, I mean, when we won the national championship, when we transitioned to a different division and all of those things that like, when you're like the crime crop of Bowling Green and you've been around for a long time, like that's what makes you prideful to be a Hilltopper. So we really tried to focus on that and bring back those memories that people had forgotten about. And I think that went really well for us. And then the year ended and then we hired a new coach. So then the first year of a new coach is just like everyone in the marketing collegiate world knows that you just focus on the new coach. You put his face on everything because you want people to resonate with him and know his face and know his name, which what was great for us was Tyson was already here. So that was a little easier for us than most. When Mike came here, someone was in my position previously when he came here, but no one knew who he was, so that was harder for us. But he was a great coach in that aspect. Like he loved to get out there and put his face out there. But for Tyson, it was a little bit better because he was previously here. So you just have to find that one thing to focus on to kind of steer their face away from something else, you know? But it's hard because
it seems like you have to think on your feet though.
Like, all the time.
Be able to fall back on different plans.
I wish we could prep this for like 8 months and be like ready to go. But no, everything in our industry is extremely like, okay, what can we do now? I mean,
it's like reactionary.
Yes, exactly. And I give a lot of kudos to our communication staff on that too, because I mean, Charles Bassey getting hurt is a huge example on that. He got hurt, season-ending injury, and he was our face on everything. And to think of how you're going to turn that to have the fans not worry about our outcome of the season. And Zach Greenwell's done a great job with making sure that people are looking at the team and not just that one person. Like, we're still here. We're still going to fight. We're going to do this for Charles, and kind of turning that so people pay attention to that.
Arkansas game?
Yes.
So I was at that game.
Okay, yeah.
It was epic. It was such a good game, but I hated to see him hurt. But that's also the night that you all debuted the new app. I don't know what it's called, but it was so cool. Explain to our listeners who probably who may not know what this new app is. It was such a cool experience, but I can't describe it.
Yeah, so actually the app already existed. We actually integrated with a company called Q Audio that actually integrated their software into our already Hilltoppers app. So what was great about that was, see, this is a whole other thing, but like, our fans struggle with things digital. They just do. Yeah. And to try to push to them that they have to download an app and things like that. So we integrated with this company, which a lot of other athletic programs have integrated with them. They just have the high rep for doing that. So we basically integrated with them, and they are able, our website is ran by Sidearm, and they're able to integrate with our Hilltoppers app that's kind of run through the back end of Sidearm to literally just add a new tab. So like, for most of the people, they already had the app downloaded. Yeah. So I had to explain, I was like, we have to explain that to them, because people get so confused. Like, you already have this app. Just click
hit a tab.
Yes, just click the tab. And so you just click it on the left, and it added a new tab that says lights. You click lights, and then our new video position that we just hired was able to add audio triggers into our intro video. So basically those audio triggers are just picking up from what they integrated on the back end. I'm not a coder or anything, but I kind of understand it, you know? So they just did that. And then you put your phone up and the flashlight show goes off, and
that's awesome.
Yeah,
it's a
so
whole
it's like
ordeal.
all of the flashlights from all of these phones going off and kind of flickering at the same time into with the music. And it was just like a really hypey atmosphere.
Yeah, our students were really onto it, obviously, but trying to get everybody else and try to realize that you have the app, you know, and you have to struggle with the technology of when you get into one place and there's 7,500 people to 8,000 people,
the signal
is terrible. Yeah. So that was something that we did too. When we decided we were going to go with them, we reached out to our IT people and was like, hey, you know, what do you think? You think we can make this work? And they were like, well, you just better hope they have it downloaded before they get in. Yeah. As long as they have the app downloaded before they get in, then we should be okay. And it just depends on the game. Like Arkansas, for example, it was full. And so that's a struggle. Like nobody that decided they were going to download it pregame is going to get it by the time the intro video plays.
That's true.
And that's just the risk that we wanted to take, because a lot of people are integrating those softwares. And we wanted to do it for a big game. And it's a lot more money than buying some glow sticks off Amazon, but it can be used multiple times, you know, and so you just have to take the risk. And honestly, we would never know if our fans could pick up on it or not if we didn't try it.
Yeah, right.
And so that's kind of how we were too. Like, let's just try it. And if they pick it up, they do. If they don't, then we just won't do it again.
You mentioned the Arkansas game was packed. One cool thing you did, I think a year or two ago, you had that hashtag selloutdiddle, and you sold out like every home game. Like, what was the process of that campaign, like starting that?
So back when we did that campaign, I was actually an assistant director of marketing, and our director of marketing, Tyler Basler, he had came from Middle Tennessee, and that was when we first started that campaign. And we just... Honestly, I think someone accidentally tweeted it, the hashtag, and then we were like, sell out diddle. But and it actually just started picking up. But our main thing when that was we needed to create urgency. Yeah. And that's what we were able to do with the Sell Out Diddle campaign. And we also did our call-a-thon with WBKO for the first year, that year. And we discounted tickets for one day only and created this urgency for people to buy season tickets. And it took off like that. Of course, any discounted ticket is going to take off, but that wasn't really what we were going for. We just wanted to sell them. So we showed people that you're not just going to be able to walk up and buy tickets anymore. Like, we're getting to the point where you have to buy them before. And we wanted to create that urgency. And so Sell Out Diddle really created that urgency. And then we got to a point to where we were selling out general season tickets. And we only had a small single game inventory. And that was great for us, right?
That's
I mean,
awesome.
like, what marketing plan do you have to develop when you sell
Yeah, when you're sold out,
tickets?
exactly.
I know Tyler left because his wife had gotten a new job, and we hired Joey, and Joey came in and he was like, so wait, we sold out season tickets last year. And I'm like, yeah, you have an easy job. But no, I mean, I think I think that makes it harder for us because retaining a lot of those season ticket holders that did buy because of that urgency were never season ticket holders before.
Right.
Yeah.
So retaining them is the hardest thing because
so then you have to move over to like the in-game experience.
Yeah, because then, and that's a thing too, is like I'd spent a lot of money on our promotional part of it on advertisements and things to get people in the door. That wasn't our problem anymore. The problem was people were in the door. Now we just have to have them enjoy their experience.
Yeah.
And that's where the new video board production came in and our new video board campaign. And we got those all put in, new sound system, because we had really shifted the gear of we need the fans to come in and enjoy the game. And we're not struggling with them buying tickets. We're struggling with them, the retaining of them coming back.
Right.
And so that's what we really had to switch our gears on. And we have in the past 2 years for sure.
That's awesome.
So elaborate more on some of the stuff that you do in-game for football or basketball. I mean, we're kind of in basketball territory right now, but what do you do to make it special for fans who come to the games?
So with where we're at on a lot of the part of the things that we do in game are all sponsorship activations. So you have to understand that a lot of people, we have gotten a lot of Twitter drama of people hating some in-game promotions, and that's where we had to switch the gear. But you have to understand that we have those in-game promotions because they were sold to a sponsor.
Right.
And that sponsor wants something very specific. Now, does it still have to represent our brand accurately? Yes. And that's where we have this collaboration with Learfield IMG, who sells our sponsorships. But honestly, for where we're at, there's not a lot of places in town where you can get advertisements in game and know that you hit at a football game, you're hitting over 12,000 people. Every single game average, you're hitting that many people. There's not a place in town that you can get that unless you're doing it at a super big Corvette event, or, I mean, the Hot Rods isn't that many people. So you have to think about, if you're a company and you want to reach that many people, we're the biggest choice. So when it comes to in-game sponsorship activation, we're pretty much sold out, especially on the big sports. So men's basketball and football, we're pretty much sold out. So we're constantly filling things in-game. But basically, we will meet up with Learfield IMG and see what they sold, the contracts that they have come up with, and we kind of say, hey, what are they wanting to do? That doesn't really reflect WKU a little bit. What can we do to change it, and what can we do to have the fans really engaged in-game? With our new video boards, we've tried to do a lot more video board like engagement stuff, shuffles and cams and things like that. We always did the cams, but now it's at another level because our video boards are absolutely gorgeous. And our PBS crew that does all of our live production has totally shifted their camera equipment, and we are getting full HD. It looks crisp. You know, on
That's
the video
awesome.
board. And so our in-game shots and getting people on the video board is so much more of a big deal rather than when it was super small. So that is something we've really tried to change our focus on too. But of course, anything on field that is like when people make a lot of money, or when there's like a big, half court shot to win $1,000, or we do the full court putt at, Joey's been really good about hooking us up with some insurance companies where we can buy to do these $10,000 full court putts, which are awesome because everybody's intended. They're like paying attention. Is this kid going to win $10,000? Of course, 99% of the time they totally butcher the shot. But in those scenarios, it creates this excitement for fans, and they want to really pay attention to those. So we really try to create something to where it's exciting for fans. We did have a promotion where fans didn't like it, and they voiced it a little bit on Twitter, and then next game we had it changed. And that's important for us, but also these sponsors are paying money. And so I want it to reflect their brand, but it's on our turf. So we have to find this balance. But we've done a really good job of really retaining that balance, but making it engaged for the fans. And
the cool part is you can adjust as the season goes on. So I mean, you can hear that feedback, whether it's through social media, and you can interact and figure out how to change it to make the experience better.
Yeah. And what's the big difference for football and basketball is football, you have 6 games. So like the fact that you're going to get sick of something in 6 games, you probably not. But if you're going to get sick of something in like 18 home basketball games, Probably, totally doubles. And with women's and men's, you're having, and a lot of the sponsors do both. And so you have to think about that too, is like, are the fans going to get really sick of this? Because we have this many games and they're kind of not even paying attention when we do it. So we just have to pay attention to that type of stuff, just because we want them to really enjoy their experience and things to just not get dull and stale and things like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Cool.
We're probably going to cut this part out.
No, we'll leave it in.
Yeah, this awkward silence I've created.
I mean, I'm helping.
We just went on
A journey.
Yeah.
No, it's really good. Okay. Well, you want to wrap it up?
Yeah. We always kind of ask, in your position, and really just even your personal, the way you look at life, is there any like one thing that has been like a touchstone for you, or like whether it's a piece of advice or a book you read or just something you always cling to in your day-to-day of,
Yeah. Well, I go back to my dad and what he taught me being a coach, but my dad taught me a lot about character. That was a big thing. Like, when people think of you, what do you want them to say? And it's not necessarily like self-love type things where you just think about it all the time and you're like, like Instagram stuff. It's more like Olivia takes care of people, or I just really like her. Like, she's so easy to work with, she'll do whatever. And like, I care a lot about that. I don't care necessarily if you don't get along with me or something like that, but like, I really care about, because I want people to know that they can call me, and I want to have that good relationship with people. And that's huge in our industry in general. But my dad taught me that. I mean, my dad's phone constantly, he's retired, and it constantly rings of people thinking of him, of what he can do for them, because he knows so many people and he knows that they'll help out. He'll help out just about anybody. And it's like his former players, like he's always helping out his former players in any aspect of life that he can do that. And I've kind of taken that in my life, and I want that to be something. And it's such a humbling experience for me, because I think about all of that and then I'm like, no, that's not true. And then people will come to me and say, you're just so great to work with. And I like freak out. I'm like shocked. Why did you say that? But like, it's how I've been formed my entire life. And I get really beat up if someone has a bad experience with me. I don't like that. I am a hard head when it comes to certain things, but like, I don't want anyone to ever think like, I don't want to go talk to her because she's just bad to work with. I would beat myself up over something like that. So just having a good character for people to be able to always think that they can come to you. What's kind of funny is my boss currently, Matt. He's awesome. Hope he ends up listening to this. He's awesome, but he gave me opportunities, and I'm big on that too. And I tell my kids all the time, I taught an intro class. I taught my first college course.
That's great.
This past semester. And I told them all the time, I was like, you never know when you're talking to someone that can help you out later in life.
Yep.
I said, so you always have got to have it on, and you always have to know your surroundings and what position you're putting yourself in. And Matt was able to give me a really good opportunity when our entire department left. I was a rookie. I was a year and a half in full time. Year 3, when you count my years, I didn't get paid, and everybody left.
Yeah.
And normally you would think, I'm going to go hire someone with experience. And he gave me that choice of, I'm going to give you this amount of time and you see if you want it. And you give someone an opportunity and they're going to go fight for it. And so he gave me that opportunity. And now I think to myself, like, I can never imagine 20 years down the road in my career when I'm probably still going to want to call Matt and I'm going to need something from him.
Yeah.
And you want to be that person for someone else. And so I say that all the time. I want to be that person for someone else. And it's even just Sublime in general. Like, I could move from Bowling Green, and if there's somebody in another place that I think Sublime could do a really good job with that client, I'm going to recommend them. You just always want to have those connections and those recommendations. And I strive on that. I strive on that so hard. And that is a lot from my father. So I think about that from him too.
I think that really works with what you're doing too, because I mean, you are creating that experience and you want people to say, hey, we had a great time at the WKU game. And in a way, you created, that good experience.
Yeah. And I tell, like, we have a really big group of student workers that we couldn't survive without. I mean, we could not produce a game without our student workers. But I tell them all the time, I said, I've done everything that you've done, but I will still do what you're doing right now. I'm not too big for any job, but I want you to learn the same things that I learned. And I want you to make those those relationships with just the people that walk through the door. Like, you have to think about the ticket holders that we have that have been in that same seat for 20 plus years. You need to know them. They need to know you, because you really want them to feel comfortable, and not just that girl that has the headset on and she's running around like a crazy person. But I want to be able to be that person for other people. So I strive to try to have that type of character, but that definitely came from my dad. But I will say a book. Everybody Always by Bob Goff is my go-to book. Okay. If I could operate like Bob Goff an hour every day of my life would be fulfilled with so much joy. So if you're struggling with loving other people and thinking your circumstances are outweighing what's good in your life, read that book. You will be blown away, and it'll change your heart a little bit.
Everybody Always by Bob Goff.
Everybody Always by Bob Goff.
Well, I'm going to check that out.
It is a somewhat religious book, but it is not a heavy religious book, that's why I still recommend it to people that I may or may not know if they're religious or not. But it's literally just a book about loving people. And like, you don't know what they've been through. So why aren't you loving them from the get, And so and kindness is that book. And I struggle with that a lot too. My boss actually gave me this little, I hope he's still listening to this. He gave me this little block that says, I have a good heart. Hold on, what does it say? It says, I have a good heart, something like this. In parentheses, head, but my mouth, ... And I think that is just the balance that I try to have. I try to have that, that spiciness to me, but then I also want people to know that I'm sweet and you can come to me with whatever. And I'm a sucker for like just being there for people. So I guess my boss has figured that out, because he gave me that for Christmas. So
that's a good balance.
Well, trying to find that balance.
That's great. Well, we thank you for being here for us today. And this was a good conversation.
No
Thank
problem.
you so much,
Pleasure
Olivia.
talking to you.
And thank you guys for everything you do for WKU Athletics. You put us on another platform that creatively that we wouldn't have been able to be at without you also.
Well, we love working with you.
My favorite people.
That was Liv Higgins, the Assistant Athletic Director of Marketing for WKU Athletics.
There you go. Yeah, it was a really good interview. And, it's one of those things where I'm always in these arenas. I might be at them for concerts. I don't go to a whole lot of sporting events aside from baseball. But you do always think about like how these venues just get turned into so many different things, whether it's a hockey rink one night or a concert venue the next night. So I kind of nerded out with her a little bit on that, and that was kind of fun. But she had a lot of great stuff to say.
I love that you did that, because it's not something that I ever thought of. Like, if I see, a concert at Bridgestone Arena down in Nashville, like, that's also a hockey venue, and they do a lot of other things there, and that just kind of blew my mind.
I mean, even like when you think about a baseball field, I know I'm just keep going on it, but when you think about a baseball field, some of these baseball fields host soccer games, and sometimes I'll be in a baseball stadium and I'll just be looking at the field and being like, how does a soccer field fit? I feel like I'm playing that puzzle game when you're like a little kid and you're trying to fit like the triangle piece into the circle hole. But it is amazing. But other than that, I mean, just so many cool things. Like I said, you just don't think about when it comes to sports marketing. You're not marketing a movie where the hero is going to win at the end, or you're going to have a sequel where the hero is going to end. You have to kind of make people love the game and love what you're doing with it.
Oh, and they do such a great job. Like, I know that I said this during the interview, but the in-game experience that they provide, especially for the basketball game that I went to recently, oh man, it's so fun.
Yeah, it really
I highly
is.
encourage anybody to go out to any of the WKU athletic games. You're going to have a blast.
Definitely. On the next episode of On the Lime, we have kind of something in the works that we're trying to get straightened out, and we hope we're going to have a good surprise for you. So we're not going to have a tease. We would normally have a tease here, but we will tell you that if you want to make sure you get that next episode, you can always subscribe to On the Lime Pod wherever you get your podcast, and go ahead and give us a rating if you don't mind too.
Yes, please. We love them. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Facebook, we're On the Lime Podcast, and on Twitter, it's just On the Lime Pod. So give us a follow there.
Awesome. Well, we thank you again for listening to the episode. Have a good one.
Bye.